Are there any additions or deletions from the agenda?
Yes, tonight, because of another commitment we have to get into new business, we are going to take 5B, the discussion and action of academic standards and competencies after the student report.
Okay. All right, public comment will occur.
And if I can make another one, we can discuss the childcare lease following that, and then we'll go ahead with the SAU leadership since we have people here with us tonight.
Okay, that makes sense.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, public comment is per policy BEDH. Public comment will occur during this public comment portion of the meeting and is done via raising your hand remotely or in person. During public comment, once acknowledged, please state your name and words so that it can be included in the minutes. And please limit your time to 3 minutes. Is there any public comment in the room? Is there any public comment online?
If you're online and wish to speak, please do so by raising your virtual hand. There's no public comment online.
Okay, great. And we will reopen public comment in a minute. Correspondence, is there any correspondence?
There's no correspondence.
Okay, great. Takes us to the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve the non-public April 29th and May 13 minutes, as well as the May 13th school board meeting minutes.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by John, second by Joe. Are there any corrections to those minutes?
Yes. On page 2, 1 to 3rd paragraph up, I think it should be combined instead of combined.
Are we talking about the school board meeting?
Yes, regular
Okay.
school board meeting. And that was all I had.
Okay, anyone else? All right, so we have a motion to approve the draft minutes as amended. All those in favor? Oh, it's Richard. Is Richard on our council? Great. Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, abstention, Layla is abstaining. Thank you. All right, then we have our nominations and renominations.
I'll make a motion that we approve the nominations, renominations, and acknowledge resignations, retirements in the packet.
I will second that.
Okay, motion by John, second by Joe. Are there any questions that anyone has?
I had one question about, seems like someone's moving in the middle school. I just wondered about certification, if that was an issue or anything like that.
Yes, this person has already reached out to the Department of Ed and has worked with Karen Dubois on the certification piece.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Okay, all those in favor of accepting? Okay, any opposed? No, any abstentions? None. All right, thank you. Okay, so, right, we're gonna do our student report.
I don't have much for you guys, but we had re-elections last week and we welcomed all the new council members today during our meeting. And our new administration, so we have Ian Lucia for our newest moderator. He was our assistant moderator this year. Tucker Green is the assistant moderator. Ollie Hanna is now secretary and Miko Andres is treasurer. We have Spring Fest this Friday, so that's super fun. We have all the usual activities. We're adding Staff Splash, which I heard you, Mr. Allen, you might be participating in. Very fun. And then also we are adding it's kind of like a relay race and then obstacle course, like bouncy house thing in a partnership with Positive Tracks in hopes of like just promoting and like letting the students know like it's super easy to just pair up with them and get like a great little physical activity, raising awareness for whatever that student wants. Just kind of promoting that a little bit. Other than that, that's all.
Great. Does anyone have any questions for Veronica? Thank Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck with finals. All right, then we're gonna move on to, 5B, which is the discussion action on the academic standards and competencies.
Hello, everyone. Karen Block, Director of Academics Engagement and Opportunity here in Lebanon. A little bit of background about what we are looking at here for these academic standards and competencies delineated in your packet.
They're on page 71, sorry, just while we're
On page 71. Give you a minute to shuffle forward towards that. The New Hampshire Education Rule 306, the ED 306 minimum standards for public education, includes a provision clarifying the respective roles of NHED and the State Board of Ed in establishing state academic standards. The rule is designed to create a clear connection between the state level academic standards and related competencies that local schools adopt and implement to inform their instruction of students. Under this rule, local schools retain the flexibility to adopt academic standards beyond those set by the state, provided that any alternative standards meet the same level of rigor as the state standards. And this provision supports local control while ensuring consistency and equity in educational expectations across New Hampshire. As many of you may already know, the ED 306 rules underwent a substantial revamping over the past year and were implemented, the new standards in the last 12 months. As part of that, they've clarified these standards are to be reviewed and readopted by school boards once every 10 years. In looking back at our district records, we weren't able to locate exact dates of when all of these standards had been adopted, and candidly, not all of them had been, were traceable in the history of the district. So we decided it was best to approach this across the board with a renewal of our commitment to these standards here today. So tonight, the board is asked to consider adopting these standards and competencies in alignment with the ED 306 minimum standards to ensure that the district meets these state requirements. The standards have been reviewed by the relevant faculty in each of our 4 schools in recent months to ensure that they are reflective of the rigor that we bring to our teaching and that we expect of our instructors in relation to our students of instruction. So these are the standards that our faculty have identified as the ones that we ought to adopt. And I'm bringing forth for your consideration.
Just have a question, a procedural question. Do you think that if we did a motion to adopt the slate of, as opposed to individually adopting each of these standards, that would be sufficient?
I think that would be great.
Great.
Highly recommend it as an approach.
I just want to thank Karen and the teachers, the principals, and all the building administrators that went in to put this and compile this. As Karen said before, our curriculum docs were in Google Docs, and they were owned by different people. So we now have access to them at the district level, and we do have the systems in place to have a review process for that. So it was a big lift, and I wanted to acknowledge your work for that, Karen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amy. And as you can see here, I've added a note in any circumstances in which the recommended standards differ for whatever reason from the state standards. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the academic standards and competencies for SAU88 as outlined tonight.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by John, motion by John, second by Layla. Any questions for Karen? So we've looked at these, just so everyone knows, the education committee has looked at these several times over the course of this process. And we also are grateful to Karen and the building teams and the grade level teams for being comprehensive in doing these. In some places, you'll notice that there are no standards available at the state level or just available. And so we've had to come up with standards, which I think is a really important piece, that even if our state doesn't value some of these curricular areas, we obviously do. So, and there are national standards for many of these places, which we're then adopting. So I appreciate them even going beyond what our state is requiring. Any other comments, discussions? Okay,
And just as a friendly reminder, we are working to get all of this with some forward-facing documents for families on the website. So people will be able to click on and see where it works.
okay, all those in favor? Just checking to make sure Richard's not online. Okay, good. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thank you very much.
Thanks very much, and thank you for adjusting the order of operations tonight to, I'm very grateful.
All right. We are also going to move directly into 5A, which is the discussion about the childcare center lease. So there's a lot of information in your packets. You also got a frequently asked questions document that was on your table today.
Sure, yes. As Chair Bond had mentioned, several people had asked about the original grant application. So Boys and Girls Club in the city provided us all that information, the applications, the award letter. I did include our draft letter of interest that we agreed upon, and our warrant article, that language that we had and that went to our voters as well. And as Chairman mentioned too, we received this great frequently asked questions sheet that I thought you guys could use as a reference. If you had any of those particular questions, that will get up on our website as well. I know we've had a meeting prior. They were here on, I believe, our May 13th meeting. We had a successful community forum, and again, here tonight, we have representatives from the Boys and Girls Club, our city manager, and Andrew Husner, and Nancy Merrill, and Frank Asmoni. So I think if you guys want to come up, and then if people have more questions for them and for clarifications, I think that would be great.
So while they're coming up here, I just also want to clarify, we've looked at the letter of intent that we as a board approved and looked at the warrant article language. Just so everyone knows, the warrant article, which was Article 10, there were 1,586 votes in favor from the city during city elections and 449 votes against. That's a point of information. I don't know if all of us always know this results. Looking at the letter of intent and looking at the warrant article language and discussion with legal. So what we are discussing today is getting as much information as you all need to be able to have us proceed into negotiations. We have committed to negotiations in good faith, and so that is what today we're getting the information that we need in order to complete, go into those negotiations. Now, what happens with those negotiations? We don't know yet because they haven't started, but our plan after we've asked all the questions is to, as a board, decide on the things that we want to include in any lease, and then we'll go into negotiations about those things. So I just want to frame for everyone where we are in the process. So, does anyone have any questions right now that they would like, have not felt like has been answered or would like more information about?
I thought the community forum was really helpful. I was able to review that. Great. One of the questions that I received, and I was looking at it on the plan, but just so we could have it for public record. So with our existing green space where we park now, and then the gravel road for parking, how many parking spots do we think between those two spots will be from there?
If you go by typical Lebanon standards, it's 55 cars. But because it's grass, you get people parking closer, further apart, but the goal is 55 cars.
Thank you.
Additional questions? Layla, you look like you have something.
I have a question. I'm not sure how to phrase it. I also found the community forum and a lot of the community feedback to be helpful. This is designed for childcare, but I am Wondering about some of the details, such as just actually visualizing what kind of space is the building built to build. It seems like that question has changed a couple of times, which I understand can sometimes be due to many factors.
I guess I just want to know what you're looking for.
So what's
with
the
that.
current plan? I think.
What's the current plan for the building? Like, what's the current building,
Size.
not parking plan, just the actual building?
Like, what's the building gonna look like?
Yeah,
So there really isn't an answer for that yet, because we haven't got that far, because we really, basically, I put a halt to things, because I'm like, we need to figure this out first. Because we were spending some money on the design there, but one thing we did talk about, which I assume was relayed, is that someone, if they wish, on this committee, can sit on some of the meetings that we go through as we're going through the designs, so that you're there, we're able to report back.
And I think the last version, go ahead, Frank, you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, so, it's not an easy answer, it takes months to come up with that design and a lot of money associated with it, so to do that on a property that you're gonna lease or, I'm sure to move forward, it's quite a gamble. So, sorry.
no, thank you for your answer, but.
I mean, our goal is to, it's always limited by how much you can raise, but like in Pennybrook, that was a definite concern of the abutters, which is a neighborhood, it was not a school next to it. So we made it look like it belonged in the neighborhood. So it was really, I think the input from the abutters, if any, are gonna carry some weight as well, as it should, because they're actually living there, so. It's kind of another long answer to, we would need more time to be able to work on that, to come with a finished product. But I guess one thing, we're not coming in with this is what we're gonna build. It's not a cookie cutter, each one of our buildings is kind of unique and different. Because we're in some of the communities.
Thank you.
I did actually have a question. So I see in these, that the taxpayers will not, that the taxpayer money will not go to construct and maintain the building. And you all will not pay property taxes, which nonprofits, right, we get that. But I also see in this that the city will potentially pay the wages and benefits for the jobs. So taxpayer, is that accurate that it would, if taxpayer dollars would go toward the wages and benefits of the employees and the childcare providers?
No,
Okay, thank you.
well, if anybody wants to change their mind, that's great, but.
I just need to
That would
make
be
sure.
too sweet of a deal.
Right.
I have a quick question. Can you tell us a little bit about what you think the timeline would look like for construction, when to anticipate a final acceptance?
Sure. Again, I know it's, this process here, I understand, doesn't need to roll forward, so as long as that takes is what it takes, but that will impact the construction schedule. It could go out to 2028 if that's the case, and if that's the case, then if that's the case. It might go out that far anyway, because it really depends on who bids the project and what their availability for construction is. And Frank and I were talking about that earlier. Even if everything fell in the line, voted tonight, and signed a lease today, it could still be early 2028. And then you got to hire everybody, which we try to do somewhat concurrently with the final stages of the construction of the building. But I think I used Lisbon as an example last time I was here. We're still half full. It's not because of the need, it's because of the staff. But we take our time doing that, so as partially not to disrupt the other job. You know, something we can charge whatever we want and pay whatever we want, put everybody else out of business. But if you don't do that, it does take longer. It just takes you a while to recruit the staff. So it could, we're a few years out, unfortunately, no matter what we do.
And would that, this may not be for you guys, maybe for the manager, but would that meet the requirements of the grant?
I can take a stab at that only in that, I think part of the timing issue is, I can pretty confidently say, having dealt with congressionally directed spends before, they don't want to take the money back, trust me. I mean, maybe in certain administrations would like to see that, but by and large, voters, congressional
delegations do not want to see that. Having said that, we can't just go on forever without a plan. That's when they will start thinking about, okay, are you going to do this or not? So that's really the challenge there. I don't think we're in any danger anytime soon, but we do need to get going in that first step, as it is with any donor, or funder, or whatever is establishing control of the land. Everything else, they'll realize once you have that, they're like, okay, you guys are serious about it. Go out to your other donors, build the stack.
I have a question, sorry.
I only have a comment.
Okay. I have one question about the grant, and again, I don't know if this is a question for you, but maybe someone in the room knows. Because the grant is given, the recipient is the city of Lebanon, right? The way the last version of the plan was presented was that the building itself was on school district land, almost exclusively. And so then that's a lease, potential lease between the school district and you all, and then there's this parking part that's on the city land. Does that fulfill the requirements if the city is still the recipient of the grant, if they're not even in the lease? That's just a question, I don't know the legality of that.
I actually don't know the actual answer to that. My guess is the nature of the project is still intact. The goal is to build a childcare center.
Great, I just wondered, go ahead,
I
Melanie.
suppose I'm in the federal level.
Right, someone knows, not me.
I doubt it.
This is more of a comment to share. I did see that because it's a federal grant, we can't have any preference or what would be considered discrimination for LEB families, but I'm hopeful if we get to proceed into negotiations that we can find a way to really kind of find ways to definitely make this a great and beneficial thing for not just the community at large, but for LEB residents and families. It's fine, I believe.
Any other questions? Okay, all right, so thank you very much. Next steps, we'll be in non-public coming up with our points of negotiation, and then the negotiation will ensue quickly thereafter.
Okay.
Right. Speed
Thank you.
along.
Andrew, did you want to speak or anything like that on that? Okay. Didn't mean to put you on the spot. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming, we appreciate it.
Thank you. You're welcome.
And thank you for the questions. All right. Now we're going back to the SAU leadership team update, Superintendent update.
Good evening, everyone. It's been an especially few busy weeks for us across the district as we close out our school year. Lots of celebrations and events and accomplishments. As you know, you saw the emails in the newspaper. Today, we had an unexpected visitor at Mount Lebanon School when a dove broke through a window and entered into the staff room. Thankfully, no staff or students were injured. I want to thank the quick response of the Mount Lebanon staff, our facilities department, the Lebanon Police Department, and the New Hampshire Fish and Game for safely responding to this situation. The deer was successfully removed from the building and safely released into the wild. Exciting day for Mount Leb, and they did a terrific job. Voting for our new district logo is now live. If you have not had an opportunity to vote, I please encourage you to participate. It is on the website, and Jack Rooney has sent that out. I also want to recognize the success of the 19th Annual Watershed Congress for our fourth graders. Thank everyone who helped organize and support this incredible learning opportunities for our students. It was a beautiful day, and there was lots of excitement. Finally, congratulations to Lebanon High School sophomore Tegan Joyner, who shattered an 86-year-old school record in the 400-meter dash. Tegan ran an incredible time of 49.63 seconds, breaking the previous record of 50.34 seconds set by Donald Burnham in 1940. So congratulations, and we can't wait to see how Keegan does in the future. And then tonight, I'd like to congratulate senior Ava Karcher, who entered tonight's games with over 761 career strikeouts in softball. She has one more home game in senior night, so it's an outstanding accomplishment and testament to her dedication and talent. That concludes my update for this evening.
Any questions for the superintendent? they did a really good job responding to the deer too. So I was at the SAU when the incident happened, and this SAU staff was just flipped into emergency procedure mode immediately, and everyone was doing all of their things, and it was actually fun to watch. And we're glad that no one was hurt, except the deer a little bit. All right, Tim, we'll turn it over to the business administrator update.
Good evening. In your packet are the same 3 reports that I had last month. This is through April 11th. The first one is the expenditure report. I mean, it's much the same as been since January. I won't bore you with comparisons too much to previous years. We are, as I mentioned before, we got POs off in January instead of the spring break. And so that led to a lot of purchase orders being done sort of sooner. And as the year's gone on, we've caught up a little bit to the last couple of years, but we're still, it's still tight. This expenditure report shows in the special education column adjustments. Last time the board approved $900,000 withdrawal from the special ed capital reserve fund. That money is still in transit. Processes that I have to send the minutes and a letter requesting it to the trust funds in the city, who then sends it to Citizens Bank, and that takes time. So I was told last week the money is in transit, but the money's not in the bank yet. So what I did here in this adjustment is I put half the money. This is just a journal entry. I put half the money in here so we can get some purchase orders, but I don't want to put it all in it. Because balancing not just journal entries, but actual cash. The school board line was $665,000 adjustment. That is, as I mentioned before, that reflects 2 payments that I've adjusted put into the budget to pay for the school care assessment. The third one is due in June, so the June report will show this the full $1 million. I'm also, I think it's new this month, I'm carrying $50,000 encumbrance for food service fund transfer to food service. Food service funded. I used to say must, because I was told it's must, but now the state is saying should operate on a zero basis. We should keep that process. So what I'm saying there is that our food service looks to be $50,000 not coming. We've had a lot of donations for bad debt. That's great. But beside that, you have revenues in versus expenditures for food and people. And those numbers were upside down by $50,000. That number is getting a little better every year. It was $100,000. Last year it was $63,000. So we're moving in the right direction. And that's just a function of we need to sell more meals. We're not allowed to sell food for honestly what it costs. We're given a tool for pricing, even for full price meals that can only be so much variance over what the federal government versus. So if you buy food, advertisement, if you buy food as an adult or as a full-pay student through our program, it's still a huge discount over what it would cost if you went to a restaurant because it's constraints we have. So while that's not great, but it's, again, the point is over the last 4 years, we've gone in the right direction. We continue to sell more meals, we try to be more efficient. So that all ties into the bottom is just there's not an additional cost. It's a breakdown of all the time of various liaisons. That hasn't changed revenue wise. The revenue page, the second page needs to go together. The third page, I don't know if you have a color or not, but I think you have color. The reddish ones are variances to budget that are less than that I budgeted for. The yellow is greater than budgeted for, obviously, and the net is $670,000 more revenue coming in than budgeted with the budget. So that's good. You can see we got a lot of special ed aid, $520,000 more than budgeted. Our investments, we budgeted $60,000, and we're probably going to get about $190,000. So, what's investments? That's just interest you earn money in the bank. Our pays us for operating average money, 3.5% or something. So that's all good, and then all plays into the last page.
And before we go on to that, just I had a question, and wish that we asked this when the city was here with the impact fees, the city elected, and how do we project the impact fees? I know we have a little variance for
Yeah.
the budget and for the TIP districts and things like that that affect.
I would also say I just processed, because I'm doing deposits, because Shay's out, I just processed that big impact fee check in May, so.
Okay, so this is not, we're not,
This
this
is-
is just a three, thank you.
How I budgeted, I mean, we've had this discussion many times over the last decade. And the city's impact fee revenue comes from when a project is like a final approval. So, besides going off of previous, basically I try to go off of previous history, but there's one year we got like $4 million and we agreed to budget that, but you don't really know when they're gonna come in. So I tried to, the 75 grand is based on sort of a conservative estimate over the last several years. This number actually, that's gonna be better for next month. Like I said, I think we just got another $40,000 check in this week, so.
I'm just saying with all the new developments that are happening around there and,
So
we just
we-
have to look to see which ones come in from the TIP districts.
Can you just define for people who are new, just briefly, what impact fees are?
So the city, as a whole, they go to an actuary and they have a whole formula that we talked about, the city talked with the school board a couple years ago. So when a project is ready to be occupied,
A residential
a
project?
residential project, they've already agreed to the city that they have to pay impact fees for water, school, sewer, all that stuff, and a portion of that flows to the school district. It's a requirement to build.
That makes sense.
We don't have, there was a time, there was a discussion during the joint task force a couple years ago where they readjusted the formula, but it's on a day-to-day basis, we don't have much, any say in the formula, it is what it is. All right, so that plays into the fund balance. This is as of April. In the middle of it says as of March. That's just a function of me doing this update late at night in hotel. So sorry. It's as of March. Our expenditure report shows we have $1.9 million remaining. I've talked about this before. To fund, some of these technically come after the bottom line, but I put them before the bottom line to try to make it clear. So we're gonna fund our $750,000 to offset taxes, which is what we budgeted. If we allocate reserve contributions that passed on the warrant, it's a total of $710,000. And then conservative numbers, assuming that there's adjustments that have to be made at the end of the year. That leaves just $82,000, but again, some of those numbers are conservative. When you add in the revenue and the money from the cap reserve fund close out, remember the way, we talked about this last week in our meeting, ironically, the PA meeting, how's that? The way we closed out we had a fund that was reserved for emergency expenditures that was built about a number of years ago, about $50,000 when we opened. So no way to change that purpose. There's two ways to change the purpose. One, you can put it on the warrant and change the purpose, it requires a 2/3 vote. The little clunkier and easier way to do is what we did, is that we closed out that, the board is approved to close out that cap reserve fund and start a new one with the same amount of money so it's an in and out. So it's in the subtract column, as part of that 710,000, but it's also in the add, so it zeroes itself out. That would be a fund balance to be retained of $812,000. Subject to the board approval. So what happens after I close out the books in June, I do the DOE 25, I'll come to the board and say, this is what you're allowed to retain by law, this is what we have to retain. You approve that, and you're gonna approve it. That's the caveat to that is this whole retainage thing is actually one of the laws we're working on changing, maybe at the concrete, so who knows what'll happen come August. But that's the law as of now. We have until June to get through this and all done. Any questions?
Any questions for this administrator? Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right. Yeah, so we're moving on to 5C.
Yes, these are two items that were added as an emergency, so I thank you. Last night, the Finance and Facility Committee met and they recommended that we could bring these to the board this evening. One being more of a safety issue, so I'm asking you guys to accept a bid from R.B. Allen for the Amber Street Fire Panel at $62,100, as recommended by the Finance and Facilities Committee. This item, the fire panel on Hanover Street, was on our budget list to start July 1. There was a failure within the fire panel, and it was recommended that we get it, completed sooner. We did get another quote, it was, I believe, $92,000, and it required a whole overhaul of our system. And this is the system that we're, used to, the fire department works with, and we're very comfortable, so. We'd like to be able to move forward and get this resolved as soon as possible.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the bid. Jen, accept the bid from Acknowledge for the HSS fire panel at $2,100 as recommended by the committee.
Okay, motion by Leila, second by Jeff. Does anyone have any questions?
Just a reminder, actually, we put 65,000 in the budget for this, so it is.
Line being amended, my motion up to $65,000.
You agree?
Yep.
Yep. All right, we'll go ahead and there's no other questions. All those in favor? Any opposed? No? Okay.
The second, thank you. This one, you do have a copy of the 3 bids, and I am recommending, that we are going with Twin State Paving, for $14,410. And this is for, the paving on Highland Ave over at Mount Lebanon Elementary School.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the bid from Twin State Paving for the MLS paving on Highland Avenue. As recommended by the committee.
I think it is, I think it's
As recommended
yeah.
at $14,400.
Good. Second. All right, any additional questions about this? So this is part of the site, like, is this repair or is this?
This is just part, it was part of our projects to start, in July with, John Herber leaving. We tried to get these bids and the work done, as soon as possible, so, although it's pretty close in prices to the other, vendor, we have more experience with Twin State Paving, and it is a local company.
Any questions? All right, all those in favor? Any, any opposed? No, all right, yes. Thank you. Okay, we will return back to public comment. Is there any public comment in the room? Is there any public comment online?
And if you are online and wish to speak for public comment, please do so by raising your virtual hand. There's no public comment online.
Okay, great. Committee update. So Finance and Facilities met on May 26th. Any of your next meeting? Do you remember meeting?
August 11th.
August 11th, okay. Policy Committee did not meet on May 26th. We are actually meeting on June 3rd, I think.
Yes, June 3rd.
Yes. Education Committee met on May 14th.
Yep, and we discussed the final approval of the academic standards, which Karen Ward presented to us, and we read the minutes to look more into the details of the approved minor changes to the LMS program studies.
Personnel negotiations met today.
We continue working with the LIG, and our next meeting is the 10th of June.
Student Wellness and Advisory Committee's next meeting is in fall 2026. HACTC's next meeting is also in fall 2026. The Area Committee met on May 19th. Yeah, we talked about the area agreement and special education costs increasing, and we talked about how we might proceed with that, how we might adjust the area agreement to reflect changes in special education costs. So we have some plans for that. We all adopted, or all are going to adopt, we haven't done it yet, but we will, all the boards in Plainfield, Cornish, and in Grantham and us will all adopt a policy to procedure to dictate what happens when a particular district declares a best interest placement or a manifest hardship placement. We have had that language in our area agreement, but it was not spelled out how that would actually occur. So which superintendents need to talk to who about what.
And so this way we hammer that out, and so you'll see a policy coming back to this board that we will, be identical to one in Grantham, identical to one in Plainville, so we'll all have the same procedure going forward. And there will probably be some additional procedures that we will adopt to clarify language in the area agreement going forward. So just be on the lookout for additional pieces of that. School District City Task Force, our next meeting is on June 9th at 6 p.m. We'll just talk about this one. Housing Task Force met on May 18th. Are you there? No? Okay. And their next meeting is June 15th, and legislative affairs is still to be determined. At this point, our next school board meeting is scheduled for June 10th at 6:30. Potentially, and everyone needs to look at their calendars and make sure, we'll be meeting the following week, June 17th, so off cycle for our board retreat. So our board retreat is still a public meeting, but it is kind of a more informal meeting where we talk about our goals for the year going forward as a board and as a district. And so we'll look at how we did in our past goals, and we'll come up with some new goals as well. And then LHS graduation is June 4th at 6:30 p.m. You are all invited to the graduation. So if you plan on coming, I think they probably sent you an email invitation, and so respond to them just so they know it's coming. And is there any other business that anyone needs to bring up? Okay, so we are going to go into non-public. We need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we go to non-public under RSA 91A32C and D.
Okay, motion by John, can I get a second by Joe, and then we need a roll call vote for that. Joe?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Tia?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Candy? Layla?
Yes.
Travis?
Yes.
Okay, so we will go into non-public just for the viewing audience. When we come back, we're just going to close the meeting, just so that you know, we'll just adjourn the meeting, so just FYI.
My mind, that's
We have to go.
Yes.
I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, motion to adjourn the meeting by Joe, can I get a second? Second by John, all those in favor? Okay, that's the 5 meeting adjourned. After I come to that.